Hey everyone, welcome back to the NYCFC in Conversation podcast. I'm Jose Medrano from NYCFC's digital team. Today we've got Sean Johnson on the show. Sean, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So you've had an amazing week, man of the match performance in our home opener, get the call up to your second camp under Greg Berhalter. How are you feeling?
I feel good. Obviously, it's been a good week. I think, obviously, been a better week if we could have capped it off with a win against DC. But happy to be back in the mix with Greg again with this March camp coming up. It's important to keep building on what we started in January, and I think look forward to this weekend against LAFC as well.
I want to go back to the beginning. Tell us where you're from. Tell us how you fell in love with soccer. What were the first memories with a ball?
Yeah, so born and raised in Georgia, 45 or so minutes outside of the city of Atlanta. How I got into soccer, my parents are both from Jamaica, so the cultural influence of soccer, watching my dad every Saturday or Sunday going to the Caribbean League and going out and playing. And for me, I thought that was like professional soccer. So I'm like, every weekend I gear up to go watch a game. It wasn't a stadium, but for me, going out and sitting just in the bleachers and being a part of the culture, excitement, the music, the laughs, the vibes, I think is what got me interested in playing the game. And just watching my dad, asked him if I could get involved, and he was like, sure. He's like, as long as you're committed to it, got no problem with you doing it. And so from then on, started playing organized soccer.
What age was that? Was it goalkeeper right away? Like how did it happen?
No, it was age 10 is when I first started playing. So I played rec soccer age 10, just for fun. I think like the YMCA team. 11 transitioned. There's a Stone Mountain Youth Soccer Association, so rec team went and then started playing organized for specific divisions, and then I moved from Stone Mountain to, I was still playing on the field as a field player at this point. So from ages 10 to 12, I was playing every position. I started off as a center back, played center mid, I played striker. Actually, later on, closer to high school, I started playing goalkeeper for the first time at 12. We were at a tournament in Jamaica actually with my club team, and the goalkeeper went down injured, and nobody wanted to play goalkeeper. So he's like, guys, we can't play a game without a goalkeeper, so how are we going to do this? So I was like, you know what, I've always wanted to try this. I might as well step up and, try this out. And it was muddy, it was raining, but there was an excitement, a rush of being a goalkeeper. So I was like, wait, kind of like this. So from then on, I was like, Dad, I want to be a goalkeeper. He's like, all right, once again, if you're committed to it, go for it. But if you're not committed, don't do it. So started goalkeeper training, and then from ages 12 to now, basically been a goalkeeper. But there's a little period in there, I think 14 to 17 in high school, where I played striker for my high school, which is pretty dope. Pretty dope.
So you fell in love with goalkeeping, literally love at first sight, pretty much.
Yeah. So goalkeeping, I knew there was just something about it. You pick up something that you really have a passion about. From the first time you pick it up, you have that special feeling about it. I think that's what goalkeeping did for me.
What was the soccer landscape like around where you were back then? Both, what teams were you watching? What were you looking up? Who was inspiring you to be a professional back then?
Yeah, man, the soccer landscape for me, especially I think in America, the only professional games I went to in Atlanta were the Atlanta Beat, which is super cool. It was the first time I got to a stadium, and Brianna Scurry was a goalkeeper for the Atlanta Beat, and it was super exciting for me to go sit in the stadium and hear loud horns and noises. So that was my first true love of being at an actual soccer game and a soccer event. But for me, my memories of soccer growing up were, watching on a tube TV, not a flat screen. Watching Fox Soccer Channel, Premier League, and watching Arsenal play. That was my team to watch growing up. Obviously, Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, which closing the loop coming here, and having Pat as a coach was pretty cool. But just growing up and watching that on the tube TV downstairs in my basement in my first house is my first true memory of really being addicted to the game.
And looking back at it now, where was MLS at that stage? And as an American kid, it's kind of unique. You have teammates, international teammates, becoming that professional. How do you look back on that time? How was it different?
Yeah, I say like my earliest memory of Major League Soccer. Is to be honest, like when I was younger, I wasn't even really aware of the league. As you know, like I just got into the game, and on a bigger scale, my dad was always watching the Premier League, or I was watching my dad on Sundays. So for me, it was those two things. It was literally Premier League and like the Caribbean League and the Atlanta Beat. Like those were the three things that like I had in mind. And I remember they came out with they used to play with this Puma ball that was dimpled, and that was my first like okay, wait, this is like the MLS ball. And then that like raised my awareness of the MLS, and I started like watching a game or two, but obviously wasn't into it as much as the things that were like so like I would say like happening pretty much every week in my life, which was the Premier League and Caribbean League. So yeah, I think it's just been it was just really interesting the evolution of myself coming to the league 2010 until now. The league has come night and day. I mean, the style of play, the quality of players, the quality of the coaches that are coming into this league. How this league's grown is tremendous.
You mentioned when you came into the league, drafted by Chicago. What was it like to finally have that dream come true for you?
Yeah, for me it was a dream come true. I think the first time I played in college was when I really my first season in college is when I really made the decision. It's like, wait a second, like this is almost a reality. Like I'm very very close to the professional level. Obviously I have to put the work in, but it was tangible. It was like within arm's reach, and I was like, I'm going to make a decision here. Like this is going to become a goal of mine. It was never really an immediate goal to always become a professional athlete. I understood I was big in academics. I wanted to make sure that everything was, all my ducks were in a row. I was checking off all the boxes, making sure I took care of what I needed to. But when it became a reality, is I think when I got my first call up to the U.S. Under-20 national team after my first season in college. And then after that, getting my first taste of being around players who were already professional coaches, I think that really kind of gave me the extra boost I needed.
So looking back on that experience, what advice would you give to young American kids now that are trying to do that, become professionals?
Yeah, my advice is once you have a clear-cut goal and you're driven about something, and you'll know whether like personally if you're really driven about it. And I think going back to what my dad used to always tell me, if you're committed to it, I'll allow you to do it. If you're not committed, then there's no point of even stepping foot into it. Basically saying like you're giving 100%, chasing your dreams, or if you're not willing to do that, then I wouldn't even consider chasing it. So for me, the whole process of becoming a professional player was 2008. I made a decision that I was leaving school from January until August or September. We had plenty under-20 camps, but I had no idea I was going to be a part of the under-20 World Cup qualifying team, the World Cup under-20 World Cup team. But that's something I committed to. And I told myself, like, I'm going to be there. Like, I spoke into existence, did everything I could, was training in any different environment. My first experience in a professional environment. Did everything I could to become part of that qualifying team. Then we qualified. Then did everything I could to become a part of that World Cup team. And then ultimately signed Generation Adidas at the end of, I think it was September, October of that year. But from January until October, I was constantly told no, by teams overseas. I was constantly told, oh, we're not sure, you're not quite good enough, oh, you're, inexperienced, this, that. There's so many things on the road to becoming a professional athlete that if you're not committed 100%, you'll never get there, And I remember sitting down with a coach of mine, Mark McCain, back in Atlanta, and just saying, man, like, this road's been tough. And he's like, okay, well, do you really want it? Do you really want to become a professional? And, it was like a moment of like, man, like, of course I want to do this. Like, but he's like, all right, what steps are you taking? Like, are you willing to like go to at any cost? Are you willing to give up what's necessary to become a professional? And I think that's when I made a decision. And my mom and dad supported me the entire way. And yeah, hard work paid off when I signed my first contract with the league, and kind of the rest is history.
It's kind of, I think it's something people don't realize how you say it now. I'm sure in those moments was really tough to live it. Is that that mental strength that people talk about, is that where it's needed? Is that, how important is that, do you think?
Yeah, at a young age, I was really tested, as far as my mental strength and willpower. I mean, you travel so many places. You train with this team, you train with that team. You don't sign a contract, and you have to come back home and say, hey, like, mom, dad, didn't work out, but I'm going to keep going for it. And hats off to my parents. They kept supporting me, saying like, look, you can do this. Like, keep going. Like, don't give up on your dreams. We're right behind you. And that was important for me too. But I can't tell you how many times I came home, like back to Atlanta. I was just hanging out at home. Most of my friends were, still, a lot of them were still in college. Some were already professional, but there I was, just kind of isolated, like at home, and I'd have to get out and just hit the streets and run on my own, and then figuring out situations to train and things like that. So there's a lot of times where it got difficult, and a lot of times where you thought like, man, like this light's kind of like closing at the end of the tunnel, but you just had to keep yourself in the right mindset and just realize that like this hard work's going to pay off, and just keep telling yourself that.
And you talk about your parents a lot and their influence. We know you have Jamaican heritage, specifically the Jamaican heritage. How do you think that's influenced you?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much like the basis of my whole my love for the game. I think if anybody's knows anybody from Jamaica, or from Jamaican descendants, that culture is ingrained. You grow up in that culture, your household, everything that I can remember from an early age, whether it's the food, the family get-togethers, the travel. It's all centered around like the culture. And Jamaica was like the main place I traveled, so just soaking all that in kind of gave me, I think, that passion for the game that comes from the culture itself. You talk about the culture of soccer growing in the United States. I can see in 5-10 years that being ingrained in kids growing up, to say, man, like I have that burning desire to really like invest myself in this game. Where you see a lot of kids with that happen with basketball, with baseball, with that's ingrained from the family culture. I think that's kind of what enabled me to get where I am today.
So your favorite food is Jamaican?
Favorite Jamaican food is oxtail. So perfect plate for me to just be oxtail, rice and peas, plantain. Talk about breakfast food, ackee and saltfish. Maybe some bammy. Not many people know what that is.
What is it?
It's like a fried fried bread almost. It's a little bit tougher, and some people might have different names for it, but that's what we always called it. Or just like some patty and cocoa bread. But it's always good to be home. Always have the home cooking, and Thanksgiving and Christmas are always filled with Jamaican dishes. So,
cool.
Yeah.
So you got your first national team cap in 2011. 8 years later, heading back into camp. What's different about you as a player? How have you developed?
Yeah, I mean, I actually take a look at it, often, kind of myself. I kind of reflect on, where I was, 2010, 2011. 2011, my first national team cap. I think my first camp was with Bob Bradley when he was still with the national team. And then the following year was Jurgen, and now, and then I had Bruce, and then now Greg. So, the evolution, I can kind of look at it as like every coach, I was in a different stage of my career. And now, with the experience that I have and the experiences that I've had over the course of my career, and using those to better myself as a player, committing to the craft, and making sure that I've stopped at no cost to do what I need to do to help make sure that I can give, first and foremost, 100% to this club, and then the guys around me at the club, and help make them better every day. I think have helped me, get back to, the national team picture, and be a part of what Greg has going on. So, I think goalkeeping, they say, like, it's cliche that it's all about the experiences over the course of your career, but I've been playing for 10 years now, and I'm only 29, and in those 10 years, there's been so many different experiences, and you don't really think about them all at once, but in every moment that you step on the pitch, it's almost like you've taken the previous day or the previous months or the previous years, you stack them on, and then almost put this, like, you've had this mold now that has all these like experiences that you just naturally now have when you're doing certain things. In any situation, you're kind of prepared for what you've already been through.
It's interesting because goalkeeping is so different, such a unique kind of. You're almost alone within the team. Can you give us some insight into what's going on in your mind? Are you thinking as you're scanning the field? Like, what is it like to be a goalkeeper out there?
Yeah. So being a goalkeeper, there's kind of two sides of the game. There's thinking, and then there's reacting, right? And you're constantly thinking of how to help the team. How can you help the team? How can my positioning help the team? How can my communication help the team? How can my actions and distribution help the team? But then there's also the things that you don't really think about in the moment. Like if you're overthinking, what's going to happen here, then too many thoughts start coming in. So there comes to a certain point where you start reacting, and that's when you kind of rely on the experiences that you've had, the training that you've had. You basically put yourself in the mindset that what you've done on the training pitch and what you've done for many years has prepared you for the moment to do the right thing. So it's a pretty unique thing. You're by yourself in that box for a certain amount of it. Now, 2019, a lot of goalkeepers outside of the box, which is kind of an evolution of the game, which is cool. But it's just another thing, another challenge that you take on and try to make sure that you can help the team with.
Lightening up a little bit the topic. This is potentially a controversial question. But you've lived in Chicago and New York, so I think
Correct.
you're in a great position to answer this.
Yep.
Chicago deep dish or New York slice?
It's easy. It's easy for me, and this has been my answer since I moved to Chicago. From the first time I tried deep dish, New York style pizza, 100%. For me, the Chicago pizza it's just too heavy. It's not really like you get one slice and that's it. I want to be able to like enjoy like multiple slices if I want to, and there's just something about like the flavor in the New York style pizza. I think most recently I was in Brooklyn, and there's a pizza place, Pauly G's, I think was the name of the place. Fire, dude. It's good. It's good.
I think the fans will be happy with that
Yeah.
answer. Okay, another kind of interesting question. I remember when we went back out to Chicago. It was your first time back in 2017.
Yep.
Some young kids had a sign up, said Milkman, and they were yelling over Milkman to you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the story behind that? Should we be calling you the Milkman?
Yeah. So the Milkman, I brought my hat if I didn't know we're going to discuss the Milkman today. But the Milkman was something I did with Aldi. So it started off for one season, and every time I made 3 saves, every fan in the crowd would get free milk. And it was such a big hit. Every time the fans would get free milk coupons, everybody was flying into Aldi and getting milk and all sorts. So it became a thing. So that was just my name that was deemed. But that Milkman outfit, and if you haven't checked it out, there's still a video on YouTube. I am proud of it. Caught a lot of heat for it, but if you type in Sean Johnson Milkman, they're still out there. That outfit I held on to, and so for Halloween, I think in the ensuing years, I'd bring out the outfit or just randomly wear the hat. So I don't know. One of these days, I might bring out the hat, or maybe this Halloween, I might have to bring back the outfit.
So you're cool with it?
I'm cool. Yeah, I'm cool, man. I've come into the training facility to pictures of the Milkman all around. Yeah, when guys caught wind that I was called the Milkman, and that commercial was out there, it was a tough time for me to take on the slack. But it was a fun thing, and the fans there enjoyed it, and I think it's still something that will be held dear to the Chicago fans.
Milkman always delivers.
Milkman always delivers.
There's also a really cool video I saw of you racing and talking about your love of racing, your passion of racing. Can you tell us where that came from?
Yeah, so my love of racing, my uncle built a Nissan Sentra back 2006, which would be my junior year in high school. So 2006, my uncle had a Nissan Sentra, and I took, he taught me how to drive the Sentra. He fully built it himself, so upgraded turbo, built engine, you name it, suspension, like had one seat in the car, so there's no passenger seat. So like if all my friends wanted to ride, they had to like ride in like the back seat that was still like just put like basically just like screwed on, like it was just hanging there. So it was cool. So he taught me how to drive a stick on that car. And ever since I was driving that car in high school, my senior year, got used to it, loved it, everything about it, and then that's kind of like what I used to go to watch like autocross events with my uncle, and that's kind of what gave me my love for racing, just being around it. And from then on, obviously doing stuff with Continental Tire and being able to go out to races. There was I think we went to, I'm trying to think of, back in Chicago, Lavelle Palmer was another player I used to play with. Went to Road America and did an event there with Continental where we got to actually beat a race, and we did some kind of some content there, which is pretty cool. Done some content on the track, you name it. But just being around the culture of racing is awesome.
I think it's interesting because it's almost similar to goalkeeping in that you're alone when you're competing. Well, kind of alone. There's a lot of mental work that happens. Do you think there are similarities? Do you think that might be why you like it as well?
Yeah. So obviously, you're in the driving seat of a race car. It's just you, and there's a lot of time for thoughts to come in, for thoughts to go out. But at the end of the day, when the whistle blows, or when the flag is waved at the beginning of a race, like you're off, you're gone, and it's just you. And whatever you do dictates kind of how the course of the race is going to be. And obviously, you have other cars in the track, you have other teammates that you're playing with, but it's very much a position of like an individual, within a team. There's a race team, so that I guess it kind of relates to that as well. So you kind of have guys that are always there, always helping you out, always helping facilitate, like cutting out plays, fixing problems. Whether it's positive reinforcement, helping you out when you're doing something bad, to tell you, hey, like maybe you're doing this, can you stop this? Like teammates to say, hey, there's a guy on, like get rid of the ball. So, or hey, like your tires are starting to go. Maybe take it easy. Make sure these tires last. We need to get through the rest of the race with these tires. So like just simple communication that helps along the way. So there's so many similarities to goalkeeping and racing.
Is it something that helps you kind of get away from the game a little bit and clear your mind?
Yeah, so I would say still trying to basically like establish that here in New York. But anytime you can get behind the wheel of a car, like my car that I did the Continental commercial in, the GTR, is actually getting sold at the moment. So, but got some other things in the works. So we'll see. Maybe later on this season, we'll have some content and. With stuff I have brewing coming up, but it's definitely a getaway. It's an escape. Just being in the car, like sometimes in Chicago or here, I would, if, for whatever reason you need to just get away and you need to be in a happy place. Just get out of the apartment, get in your car, just go for a drive. Just get out and just go. Just wherever it is, as long as you're in the car, like it's a happy place. So for me. Whether it's a track, whether it's driving to the training facility, driving back home from training, driving to games, like that time in the car is my time. And anybody that is in the car with me has to respect that.
How important is it as a professional athlete to have that thing that helps you kind of clear your mind? Because people sometimes forget you guys are human beings, right? You feel things.
Yeah.
How important is that?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. A lot of people only really see, when they turn on the TV or when they come to the stadium, but there's so much more behind. Us as athletes and us as people, we're people as well. We're all wired differently. I may be wired differently than my teammate, and people don't necessarily understand that in every moment. So everybody needs to have something, or someone, or something they can do to get away, something they can do to kind of free their mind. And whether it be if it's yoga, it can be yoga, it can be something that something like driving in a car that makes you happy. It can be like painting, like art, like Breck Shea does art, like Ben's fishing, Ben Sweat's fishing. Like there's so many places that have different hobbies. Some places it's golf. There's got to be something that kind of takes you away from that mental edge of being always like checked in on the soccer field. Get away from it, come back, because it is a lot. Like a lot of people don't realize after a game, like no matter if you've done a crazy amount in a game or little to nothing, like you're almost wound up for the hours after a game. So 7:00 game, 9:00 end, at midnight you're still like amped up, so whatever it is, like players have to figure out a way to kind of come down and get back to a level head and be able to ramp up again for another game day.
What is kind of like your routine like now during season? What's a typical day like for you?
Typical day for me during the year is wake up, have coffee, maybe overnight oats at home, and do what I need to do, maybe a crossword or two. Then hop in my car, come to the stadium. Before training, we always sit down. We have breakfast together before training. After breakfast, change up, do pre-act, whatever activation stuff you need to do before going out. See the trainers if you need to see the trainers. Go out, train, come back in, also do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Recovery from training is important to be able to go the next day and then prepare for games, whether it's massage therapy, foam rolling, stretching, and then we have team lunch together as well. So it's a big part of, learning each other on and off the field. Then after that, do what I need to do at the training facility. Then I head home, straight down the Palisades. If I need to get a haircut, stop at the barbershop, which is just 5 minutes down the road, which is perfect for me. But once I'm home, kick my feet up for a little bit, maybe take a nap. Then it's either, playing FIFA. It's a big one. And Sebastian Leggett, if he ever listens to this, will appreciate this or not appreciate it. But there's a few stories with FIFA. I think it would be interesting to do a phone call or some content with him because he underestimated my FIFA abilities last time we were roommates in January camp. But we actually had a bit of banter. Saying
Was there a big scoreline?
There was actually heavily favored in his advantage. So to be fair, he has a PlayStation 3 or PS3, and I have an Xbox. So it's a little bit different. And I told him this before we started that I would need an adjustment. There's an adjustment period. So for the first day, he wiped the floor with me. Like, it was bad. But I was frustrated, but I stuck with it. And I was like, look, this is going to be terrible for you. And one day, I was like, one more day, it's going to be bad. He's like, listen, it's almost laughable. And so we play, we come back, and there's at one point, he just couldn't win a game anymore. And, I left off on a win, just saying, you aren't as good as your last game. So if he hears this, it's a challenge. We can maybe set up one of those like e-gaming situations where we can sit down and play. But no, it's all good fun. Just get home and chill. Basically, just kind of wind down. Live in Hoboken now as well, so there's a lot of good places, especially in the summer too, just to go by the water, have a walk, just kind of get out of the house and just be outdoors when it's nice. But when it's a little bit cooler outside, just kind of bundling up and just kind of enjoy my downtime on the couch or wherever it may be.
So how much do you like New York City, having lived here now a couple of years?
Yeah, New York City's great. I used to remember when I used to play, against New York City at first and travel here. I would, get into the city, right after the game just to experience it because I'd never been in a big city like that. Chicago's big, but New York's even bigger. And now living here for, being my third year, just being just across the way and being able to take the ferry in, being able to take the path in whenever, the bus, right to Port Authority is perfect. And then just being able to explore. The city's massive. And I have a lot of friends in the city now, both past players and just, friends growing up, just the relationships you build through life. And, just being able to experience what the city has and know you're in the greatest city. It's incredible.
So going back to last year, game against Philly, you save a penalty kick. I remember thinking, God, this got to be the best feeling in the world as a goalkeeper. Is it?
Yeah. There's so many feelings that are good as a goalkeeper. The one best feeling is just winning. Period. Two, I think penalty kicks are up there for me, especially at points in the game where it kind of takes out it just drains the energy of the opponent. They've been pressing. It's an important part of the game. And to save the penalty and almost see like heads drop, and literally it spurs us on to go on and raises us another level. So it helps the team, raise the notch again. But yeah, just about, anytime I can do something to help the team in a game, it feels good, and penalties are definitely up there.
The national team is obviously in a new era under Greg. Can you give us some insight into what it's like in the group right now? Is everyone optimistic about the upcoming years?
Yeah, January camp was great. And I tell you what, like the energy, the enthusiasm, the commitment to learning, Greg's philosophies and what we wanted to achieve. We're setting out to change how people view U.S. soccer, and how we play soccer here in this country. And I think it takes a commitment. Not everybody. People might look at us at times and think we're crazy for doing some of the things that we do, but as a group committing to the way we're playing and becoming really good at it, I think there's no question about anybody who stepped into that January camp now, or the guys who will step into the camp will step into the culture and learn. There's such a commitment from the staff to getting those principles across to players. There's such a commitment to making sure that we understand those. And then also the understanding, being able to help each other in any moment. So that understanding from the time that we started camp to the end of camp was crazy. Like everybody would be able to sit in a room and literally break down an entire game, like just the team, which is awesome. And the way we want to play. And I think that speaks to the commitment of the coaching staff, and how every single day they were hands-on. Every single day, the communication was unbelievable to the players, and making sure that we understood exactly what they wanted. It was a learning process for the players, and I think we did a really good job. So definitely excited to be back in. I think everybody's more optimistic than ever, and I think committed as ever to making sure that we are where we need to be in 3 years.
Amazing. You've obviously got a lot of years ahead of you as a goalkeeper, but have you given any thought yet to what you might do after you retire, after the game?
Man, I hope I play for another 20 years. I know it's highly unlikely, 20 years, but no, I think I've put a little thought into it, and I've explored some things. But I think if you gave me like my one thing that I could do, if I was given a choice after I was done playing, I'd be in the seat of a race car. Every single day, just in the seat of a race car. If I could have a racetrack in my backyard, I would do it. But no, I think maybe sports car racing after I'm done. Just as a hobby, or maybe I get to the point where I'm actually able to do it for a profession. But yeah, there's a lot of interest I have that will look to see like what really makes sense. I think in the next like few years, and really like start to build towards that. But I think for now, 100% of my focus and energy is on, bringing a championship to this club. I think, it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of focus, and a lot of time and effort to make that happen. So for now, that's the short term.
It's now a bit of a tradition to end these podcasts with a little bit of a round of superlatives. So
all right,
I'll give you a category.
Yep.
And you name who on the team fits that category best.
Cool.
Let's start with class clown.
Class clown. That's easy. Jonathan Lewis. Jonathan Lewis is a class clown, and he's full of energy all the time. You can always count on him to say something just off the wall, and have the entire group just come at him, and then he'll just turn around, exit the locker room, and do his thing. But yeah, he's a clown, man. He's a clown.
Who's the teacher's pet?
Ooh, teacher's pet. It's a tough one. I think I would have to go with, Mitri. My man he's just so good that I think at times, like, he just takes everybody, like, I wouldn't say by surprise, but it's just like a confirmation of, man, like, this is why, like, this guy is, like, legit, and this is why he's, like, our guy, and he's special talent, and I think, he's definitely teacher's pet. If anybody gets too close, they might get in trouble.
So he's impressed out there.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely impressed, and I think he's got a level of comfortability already. But I think as the season goes on, he'll get more and more comfortable, and we're committed to helping him do that.
Great.
Yeah.
Who's the most talkative on the team?
Most talkative? Wow, like these superlatives are going to get taken up by one person. Jonathan Lewis again. The kid loves to talk. And it's no secret. He knows it. If you set him up with a microphone in front of his locker, he'd probably just sit there and just talk to the mic all day, every day. So he's definitely one that can hold a conversation. That is for sure.
Who's the quietest?
Quietest dude on the team. Wow. That's also tough. I wouldn't say who's quiet. I would say Evan or James. Evan or James. Like, cool cats, just like kind of keep to themselves. Like, but don't get it twisted. I think they have a mean streak. Evan will put in a mean tackle. James, not afraid to get stuck in. But I think off the pitch, just really quiet, collected guys that, in any moment you don't expect them to be the most talkative ones in the room.
Who has the best style on the team?
Best style. Wow. I would have given it to Rodney. He had some good style. But Seb has some great style, man. He's a level above the rest. I think followed closely by my man Maxime Chanel. So those two are my standouts with style on the team.
Worst style.
Wow. Worst style. Worst style. I just give it to Jonah because I feel like it's the right thing to do. His style's okay. I think everybody's got a decent style. I may catch a little heat sometimes for having the dad outfits, but that's okay. But I think everybody's pretty decently dressed. So we'll leave that one.
NA for that one.
Yeah, we'll leave that one NA. It's a long year. It's a long year.
Who do you think is the best bromance on the team?
Best bromance. Ooh, that's another good one. I would say Izzy and Evan. Izzy and Evan, or it could be Ringy and Anton. So those two, I mean, I think it'd actually be a good matchup, like a nice 2v2 if we get some of those like inflatable boxing gloves. Duke it out to see who's the best pairing. But I think those two, obviously, I think Izzy and Evan live really close to each other, if not in the same building, so spending a lot of time with each other. So they're, I would call them the best bromance in the team.
Anton took the crown when I asked him about it. He said it was definitely them two.
Yeah. All right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I have him duke it out.
Who is the life of the party?
Life of the party. That's a tough one. You know what? I'm gonna give it to him again. I'm gonna give it to Jonathan. I'm gonna give him the life of the party. I will say that whenever there's a time, there's a moment that needs a little bit of energy, that needs just something. And if he opens his mouth, there's something's going to come out, and it's going to bring life to the room. So I'll give that one to him as well.
All right, and let's end on this one. Who is the messiest on the team?
The messiest. Ooh. The messiest. You know what? Like, I think last year, maybe not this year, because no one's really been in my locker this year. Like, I'm not really that messy of a person, but literally things happen a million miles an hour, and I'm so like intent on getting out to the training pitch or doing what I have to do that sometimes like things start to like pile up a little bit. So I would say my locker is the messiest, but it's a complete polar opposite of how I am at home, which is really weird. So yeah, it's and if anybody wants to challenge me, they can go to my apartment at any time and check it out. It's sparkling clean. I'm always picking up, but yeah, my locker gets to be a little bit messy. So.
What about your car? Your car?
Car's clean, which is it's weird. I know it's weird, but maybe that's something I'll work on this year. So.
Cool, Sean. Thanks so much for your time, man.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, thanks, bro. Appreciate it.